Hey Vijay, great to be here. I want to start off and ask. We are living in the age of AI.
Yeah.
So, do I call you Vijay or do I say hello Vij.ai?
Either of them are great. Having .ai is helping companies present themselves as like the most modern players. So you can call me whatever you like.
Very cool. So, we are today squarely in the age of AI.
Yeah.
And Jensen just kicked off CES, Sanjay Nath was here. And I wanted to start off by asking, share a bit about Atomic's vision when it started where we are today. You're building Atomic to become the IT full stack ITSM platform. What maybe an interesting thought to start off with is, if you were doing this 5 years ago in the pre-AI era versus today, what has changed? And maybe just share it. Let's start with that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. So, I think if you look at software, right, we always build software for people to do the work better, faster, cheaper. That was like before AI. In AI now we are building software that does the work, right? Not just the software that we'll give to people to do their work better, faster, and cheaper. That will continue to be there, the traditional SaaS. But in AI, we can actually let the software do the work, right? That's why people are now saying, instead of software as a service as a software, right? Which is essentially you're offloading the work of a specific role or a function or a job to software to let it do the work, right? So the reason it is very exciting is, the ITSM domain, it's been around for a very long time. And so the problem is the same, right? How we solve that problem in today's stage of a lot of technology at workplace,
right.
And people at multiple locations, and complexity of modern business, right? Requires us to basically solve it in a very agentic way, where the software can actually offload a lot of work from IT. So we typically introduce ourselves as agentic service management for smarter IT and faster business, right?
Yeah.
I think IT spends a lot of time dealing with breakages today, but the new world is not just breakages. IT has to handle breaches because of the cyber and security and whatnot. So we basically believe through Atomicwork we can offload this breakages work from IT so that they can focus on more strategic, impactful, things that can help their business grow.
Yeah, interesting. I'm waiting for the day. I don't think that day is fair up when kids are learning the alphabet, and A is going to be for agentic. Hopefully, maybe for Atomicwork, N is for NVIDIA and things like that. So let's, you touched upon the role of IT and how it's changed. We're sitting here in a room looking at the lights. For the longest time, the role of IT was, let's say, a very mundane way, keeping the lights on, keeping the organization running. And now we're talking about a strategic shift. Jensen at NVIDIA also talked about how the IT teams of today are going to become the HR managers and teams of AI agents tomorrow. How are your customers reacting to this, and how is Atomic sort of embarking on this and incorporating this strategic shift?
No, I think look, IT. So there are a lot of jobs, right, in a business. I think there are a few jobs that are really stressful. Right? When you're an executive, you're in a front line. And I think IT is also one of the jobs that causes a lot of stress, right? Because think about it, if everything is good, nobody walks to IT team and says, it's great, nothing broke today, right? But the moment something breaks, then they're like, what are you doing? Why did it break? Like, what else should we plan, right? Who broke it? And, what's the root cause? And, I think today's technology is so connected within the business, from the business to outside world. I think cyber is like a major thing. So you need to basically help operate the business. You need to support, the strategic plans of the business, and then you need to protect the business, right? So the IT role kind of has gone from like, okay, I just operate the business to how do I protect the business, right? And so I think IT teams historically have become leaner and leaner. I think if this AI, moves in the direction, I think a lot of teams within the enterprise will become leaner. But one team that was already leaner in even a fairly large company is IT team, right?
Right.
I think they are not able to hire a lot of people because it's a stressful job, and they are the first ones to deploy automation traditionally. They are the first ones to adopt RPAs traditionally.
Yeah.
And I also believe they will be the first ones to adopt agents, right? So the Jensen's comment of IT team's role will go from being an IT team to a HR team managing agents, because when you have a lot of these agents, you need to deal with how do you onboard these agents, right? How do you give entitlements to those agents, right?
Yeah.
How do you support those agents? How do you troubleshoot them, right? In some sense, it kind of you kind of become like a this supporter, supervisor, coach, moderator, manager of technology instead of being an operator of technology, right? I think so far IT has been operator of technology. I think tomorrow they will be more like a supervisor of technology.
Yeah. This is interesting. If you look at the business impact and bring in Wall Street, IT's traditional role is, let's say, keeping the lights on, or let's say breaking or fixing breaks, you're making sure that things aren't broken, versus now being responsible for outcomes. And those outcomes, if it's faster, better, cheaper, you're talking about productivity on Wall Street. So when let's go back to we're in the venture capital industry, you're a startup CEO, and everything in our biz is about David versus Goliath, startups versus incumbents. When you have your enterprises who are switching over from larger platforms to you, what's driving them in this AI first world? What is Atomic going after where they're picking you and choosing you?
No, I think a lot of customers are basically tired of technology, Sanjay, right? Because what we have done as a tech industry is we have created a lot of tools, and we have created a lot of applications, and there is a proliferation. There is some sense, there is a fatigue of tools for IT teams, right? And IT teams really are tired of dealing with so many tools, right? They used to 15 years ago they used to operate 50 things in a business. Today, even a 1,000 people company probably has 500 tools and applications, right? And because I think we went from this integrated approach to solving problem to basically best of the breed pointed solution to solving a problem. I think what COVID has done and what AI is doing for IT teams is, how do I basically converge a lot of these pointed things, into one holistic way of solving, problem. Right? So if you're a founder today and if you're starting, I would highly encourage you to look at, building a solution rather than, building a tool, because tool only solves one problem. A solution should solve a bunch of use cases for your customers, right? Because whether you sell to IT, whether you sell to engineering, whether you sell to sales team or a marketing team, they're tired of tools, right? And as you rightly said, they're actually looking for outcomes, where here is my problem and here is my context, and I want you to basically solve this problem in order to deliver this outcome, right? Within my business, to my end users or my customers, my partners, or my field teams, and in my supply chain, whatever the context may be, right, of your solution domain. So our learning, personally from an Atomicwork perspective is, don't build software, build a software that can deliver service, right? So if you look at our own domain, right, in 80s and 90s, people built software, built $1 billion companies in this space, just helping IT teams manage tickets. And then if you look at 90s and 2000s, what people have done is, hey, this tickets is not a problem just for IT teams, it's a problem for the rest of the teams, so let's do for every team. And then people said, hey, tickets are useful, but what essentially people are asking when they raise tickets, etc., is to get some work done. So companies like ServiceNow, etc., took it to workflow level, right, from a ticket level, right? And people who just focused on solving, managing tickets, helping people create, manage tickets, streamline, crowd tickets, they become $1 billion companies. People who took tickets to workflow, they become tens of billions of dollar companies. Our vision is to take from workflows to service, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to onboard an employee, you need to offboard an employee, you need to provide a sales employee with a set of services, right? Those services could be, how do I code, how do I get a partner agreement signed, how do I raise an escalation for price change, how do I negotiate to bring a specific partner to support in this region, right? So that's basically a service, right? So I think we are basically saying, hey, we need to truly deliver the service of service management, not just give people again tickets and workflows.
Yeah.
And today we have opportunity to deliver service because the technology has gotten better in terms of this agentic AI to understand context, understand job function, understand business and the domain of the company. So it can do way better job than the traditional RPA and workflow transfer.
Interesting. You're talking about how services, products and platforms are coming together, amalgamation.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I mean, going back 2 decades when I was at IBM and PwC, spent about 10 years, IBM claims to have invented on demand.
Yeah.
And when they came out, they would tell their clients that we'll do your mess for less.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
But that mess for less was related to the outcomes.
Yeah.
The client would only pay for outcomes. So in one sense, we're coming back to that.
Yeah.
And today, we as a startup, are you a product AI company or services or platform? It's all coming together.
It's all coming together.
And clients are looking for that.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah. I think if you look at a company, right? What is a company? A company is a bunch of people trying to deliver a product or a service. In order to deliver that, they operate using set of processes. Right?
Sure.
And traditionally, software was built to make this processes better, faster, cheaper, smarter, whatever you call it, right? And what actually stopped companies from growth? If you look at it, I think most companies don't grow because either they lack capital or they lack capabilities, capacity, etc., and they cannot deal with their complexity. Right? I think AI may not be able to solve the capital problem, but it will help companies unlock capacity, it will help companies reduce complexity, so more companies can actually grow and become bigger companies. So you are focused on getting the work done, right? Not like worried about, okay, how do I deal with this process? Okay, what tools do I need to use to deal with this process? Who else do I need to bring in to operate these processes, etc. I think that compression will be dramatically faster. And traditionally, the only way to compress is you find a service provider, you find some platform, you find some products, and then you kind of like integrate these things together, right? And then you have multiple layers, internal teams, external teams, multiple internal teams, whatnot. I think humans will kind of, at least my thesis is, the jobs will not go away. I think the jobs role will change from being an operator to being a supervisor, right? Irrespective of your role within a company, I think a lot of us will get into supervisory role, working with this technology and AI agents, whatever, autonomous agents, whatever name terminology we can give. I think we will not just operate software, we will actually supervise, to deliver a set of services and outcomes.
Very interesting. If you think about like a HBR review about, let's say, IT services, I think that what we're saying is Atomic is at the center of of the action, where earlier it was IT, you call them and you have a break, you've got to fix things or something's broken. To truly being an enabler, but enabler not just of people but of AI agents. And you think Atomic is actually enabling us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we essentially what we are doing is we are building AI agents for enterprise IT teams, right? And I think even though the terminology is IT service management, where you are essentially delivering service, what most IT teams today do is they just do support, which is very reactive, right? Service is very proactive. You basically, I think the transition was very hard. One, because the complexity of business has grown, the technology complexity of business has grown. The number of places and countries where a company today operates is way more complex than it used to be like 15-20 years ago. So the jobs have become very stressful, the jobs have become very chaotic, jobs have become very complex. I think with this new approach that we are taking, we believe we can give peace of mind to IT teams, we can give outcomes to business, and we can move them from just doing support to delivering service. When business can do that, through their IT teams, that's when you really can drive growth. You can operate better and scale faster.
Interesting. We're talking about driving growth, we're talking about outcomes, which is typically not 20 and 30 years ago what we talk about IT. So, let's move to the role of partnerships. Very interesting. You talk about it a lot in Atomicwork's case. On the model side, you're partnering with Cohere. On the Azure and the cloud side, you're partnering with Microsoft. Satya Nadella was just here. Jensen just spoke. What's your advice to founders? A lot of times, typically SaaS startups will just do direct sales for the first 2-3 years, then start thinking about partnerships. How do you advise and how do you think about partnerships? I mean, today we are in the AI age, we are also in the ecosystem and partnerships age.
No, I think, look, generally, if you're selling to enterprises, right, which is our case, I think partnerships are really, really key, right? Because you have to operate with their ecosystem, So for us, Microsoft is like a key partner because, they kind of pretty much a significant player in this business IT ecosystem, right? Whether it's Active Directory, Office 365, SharePoint, Power Automate, Azure, now Azure OpenAI, and whatnot. And from modern side, we partner with Anthropic, we partner with Cohere, we use OpenAI.
Partner with all of them.
We use all the 4 major pictures, right?
One part.
The reason is, I think these different model providers are able to deliver essential intelligence that you can use in specific use cases of your product, right? End of the day, your product has to operate in a customer ecosystem, right? So now you have to choose what is your customer ecosystem. Is it like a modern IT, which is mostly like Google ecosystem, right? And a lot of best of the breed SaaS. Or is it a business IT, which is like a Microsoft ecosystem with mature SaaS platforms, like it's like a Salesforce, it's Workday, of the world. Or you have this legacy IT ecosystem, if you're selling to Fortune 500, where you have to deal with IBM, as you mentioned, IBM, Cisco, Broadcom, whatnot, right? So in our case, we choose that, hey, business IT is our ecosystem, and those are the companies that we want to sell to. So Microsoft is a key partnership, not only from a technology perspective, product perspective, even from a go-to-market. So we work very closely with them. And from a technology perspective, broadly, we focus on partnering with a lot of AI model provider companies. And we also do technology partnerships with players like, Okta, right? And we work with Slack, it's a Salesforce thing. I think for founders in the new world, I think as much as you're competing with incumbents, you also need to collaborate with large incumbents, right? Because if you don't do that, the leverage will not come. Because as a startup, you don't have brand. You don't have leverage, right? And how do you build brand and leverage is when you partner, you can borrow some brand, you can borrow some leverage, right? So if you're a founder building, I would highly encourage you to think about, just like you think about your product and platform, think about your distribution and think about your partnerships from a leverage standpoint.
So that's, I think what I'm taking away is that start thinking about partnerships on day one. You might activate it later, but don't switch on the light. You have to start thinking about your ecosystem from day one. So, Vijay, when from our world, we think a lot of people think startups are about building products and selling it, but it's also about building an organization.
Absolutely.
And you are, in our parlance, we call a 2x founder, but you're actually a 3x founder. The first startup was even before Minjar. So share a bit about when you think about the organizational building first principles now versus Minjar. What's different? I've had, and the Blume team has had the opportunity to interact with you all in Palo Alto, in Bangalore. You even have a team member in Australia. You're global. What are those founding first principles about building an organization this time around?
No, I think so when I started Atomicwork this time, I think I thought a lot about team, because one of my favorite quotes is from Koka. He basically said, the team you build is the company that you build, right? Because if you look at your plan keeps on changing, the technology keeps on changing, the traction, has friction, right? I think a great team can essentially change the trajectory of the company, like by 10x and 10x and 10x, right? At a different stages of growth. So this time we know that from day one we are building a platform company. So we basically said, hey, we need a lot of talent density in the company, right? So I think we have been a lot more mindful in terms of, hey, what kind of people we want to bring, right? At what stages do we want to bring? and how do you want to build a global team, because we're also serving global customers, so you need a global team, right? So if you're serving your customers locally, then you can basically say, hey, I can operate from one place. But if you really want to serve a global customer, then your DNA as a startup also has to be global, right? It could be like you just might have only a couple of people initially, but eventually you kind of figure out your center of gravity and how you want to double down on it. I think we got lucky, if you ask, with some of the talent that we are able to attract. But I think in Minjoy, I spent a lot of time, in the first initial years on technology, right? I think this time I spent a lot of time on team, right? And because I also, as founders, we think, we can do a lot, which most founders do. But building a business, right? Building a company is beyond building a product, right? And you also want to build for your customers where you reduce the risk for them, right? So you essentially have to factor in, a lot of things. As a second-time founder, VC expectations are very high. So they expect you to go after large markets, they expect you to go after higher ACVs, right?
Yeah.
And from day one, I think there are three things that we were very clear. We want to build a platform company, we want to build a global company, we want to go sell to enterprises, and we want to go after large ACVs. So if you ask me first year, I was like, why is it taking so long for us to build, the version 1, right? Because we took almost a year to launch our version 1. And then we were like, hey, we need to get to enterprise. But with the enterprise, it's very complex because your solution has to be complete for them, right? So finding that first enterprise to deploy is much harder than even finding a 500, $10,000 customers, right? Because, I think enterprise criteria is slightly, stringent. They look at security aspects, they look at, completeness aspect, readiness aspect, your ability to operate with their technology ecosystem and whatnot. I think we have been a little bit more thoughtful and methodical this time, to hire people. I think SMBs buy tools, enterprises buy transformation, not just your technology.
Sure.
So we had to invest in, customers growth team. We have to invest in, business development teams. We had to invest in implementation, engineers, right? So I think I would say be more thoughtful. If you're going to spend 10 years building a company, I think it's okay. You can spend 10 weeks, to essentially think deeply about how you want to build a company, right? I think a lot of times we just jump, which is a great thing. But look, if you really value your time, I think deeply about how you want to build, what kind of company you want to build, and how you want to sell, and how you want to scale it. It may not go as per the plan most of the time, but just thinking through helps you get better at your judgment.
This is really interesting. In the first conversation, often we ask startup founders to, think about, your business model, think about the product roadmap. But often, I think, think about the team and the realization that you will not do everything yourself. In one sense, Vijay, you're this, let's say, like a super AI agent, and you are orchestrating all these different agents, your investors, customers, partners, team members, let's not call them employees, a lot of ownership. Just to make it, on the personal side, what is a typical day like?
Oh, I think it's crazy. So I really hope I can use more AI technology, CEO agent, but we do use quite a bit. I think I spend a lot of time, just like every startup founder dealing with a lot of everyday things, right? But I think these days I'm also very thoughtful. So for example, every Friday, this year, we have decided that as a team, we need to come together, pick one area of our company. Like it could be product, it could be engineering, it could be customer success, go-to-market, marketing, business. Go deep in that area, right? Let everybody share their thoughts, their feedback. Let the lead for that function outline what they're planning to do for the quarter, what they have achieved, the good, bad, and good piece of it, right? I think from my perspective, I still spend a lot of time trying to find talent. I do a lot of cold outbound. One of the new skill I would say from Ninja to now I have learned is how to do shameless outbound, right? As a founder.
And you're doing that every day.
Yeah, every day. Like I think that gives me a lot of kick. Sometimes just doing.
They're then looking for Atomicwork and they're picking you because you're the best product versus who you know.
I think basically in enterprises, IT is generally, right? right? Enterprises buying process is slow, right? But in IT is a skeptical buyer. He will not buy unless he's very familiar. He or she will not buy unless they're very familiar with the product or the technology at the company. And they're very trust and relationship driven buyer, right? Because look, their job is dealing with shit, so they don't want to introduce this new technology, which causes more pain and problems for them.
The product
right?
has to be world class at the best of class. They have to be able to displace and kick out something they have a lot of comfort with.
Because change is very hard, right? For IT teams, it's even more hard because the technology that they use, they buy and operate, actually has to deal with a lot of the technology within the business, right? So I think the cold outbound, I just do it because I believe that helps us seed this thought that there is this company that is trying to solve my problem, very focused on just solving my problem, right? It's not like a company that's building 10 products, one product for marketing, one product for IT, one product for sales, etc. But there is a team that is just focused on solving full stack problem just for IT teams, right? And so I spend a lot of time doing outbound. I spend a lot of time doing talent hunting. I do a lot of time, pitching to people, whomever I find. I spend less time at events, as a 2x founder. I think as a founder, I think your time is very precious. I think spend it on vectors that can actually accelerate your value, right? I think test your product a lot, right? I think pitch your product a lot, right? And outreach to people for product a lot, right? Because then people say, how are you different? Why are you different? Why are you doing this? I don't need this. I think it makes you better, right? And the biggest job I feel is of a founder, right? Is organize capital, organize capacity, capabilities, coverage, right? And collaboration.
It's the four C's of the startup of the AI age.
Yeah, right.
The new four C's.
Yeah, then you can really go deliver value for your customer.
Talent density is one term I'm just picking up that you're encouraging startup founders to always hire the best team. The team is going to build the product of the future, right? It's not just you. And you're constantly looking, even if you hire. We also call this inside Blume, we call it a people's project. We're always meeting great people. There may or may not be a role, and the role may emerge.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's all about talent density. So very interesting. Just to shift maybe into the last part of the discussion about you Kiran and Parsu have called it atomic work. You're on this atomic journey. Venture funds, as you know, also are structured typically as 10-year funds, 10+2, and this is a very long-term game. Gary Tan, just interestingly, just came across Resonates. I think, and Karthik was also talking about this internally, that the life of a startup is just increased now from 10 years to 15 years. It's not a long-term game, it's a very long-term game.
It's a very long-term game.
The other, Gary was just talking about that every product is born terrible it's terrible when it's born. And it's only through bug fixes, in actually the hands of customers, not in the internal team, that it becomes great, right? It moves into transcendence, becomes a transcendent product. Let's look at the next 10-year journey. What would make you, Kiran, pursue your early, Len and everyone happy? What does maybe 5 years and what does 10 years look like for Atomicwork and its customers?
No, I think, our first mission is, make IT smarter so that they can help business faster, right? In some sense, the vision is, how do we unlock tomorrow's IT today through Atomicwork, right? So that essentially means we have to be ahead, not just ahead, way ahead than, where most things are today, right? I think innovation is like very core, and I think as founders, startups, and technology companies, I think we can do that 0 to 1. And then give it to your customer. The customer really help you take it from 1 to 100. Whether it's a feature, whether it's a component, whether it's a module, whether it's a capability, right? I think our customers are really, really good at helping you polish things, right? So never be shy of launching things early, thinking it's not polished, because customers can help, polish. But at the same time, I'll also tell you, the time of a customer is as valuable as possible. Right? So you don't just build a minimum viable product, you also build a minimum valuable product for a customer. So he feels there is value, so that he wants to invest his time to make you perform better as a product, your product form better, and your functionality of product is tremendous. We could have like spent 2 years trying to build and polish things. We could not have gotten there. I mean, sometimes even I feel like, hey, we should have launched at 9th month instead of 12th month, right?
But that means that you have tremendous trust with the customer to know that the product is almost perfect, not perfect, but they give feedback and they become partners for you to improve it versus waiting for the large optimal time to launch.
No, absolutely. I think, see, even today I go to customers and I basically tell them, look, we don't have a perfect technology, but we will be a great partner for you. If something breaks, we will be there to help you, and we will not black hole you in the sense, raise a support ticket, some support engineer will look at it, etc. Right? I mean, there are times where customer basically says, I don't like this filters experience in product, right? In the morning, by afternoon we develop it, test it, run the regression, by evening, give it to them. And sometimes they say, oh my God, this is like the fastest ever I got something from a company, right? So because the early customers, they have to almost become like your champions, right? And the only way they'll become your champions is if you build a relationship and if you really provide world-class support to them and you actually make them feel like they are invested in your mission, right? I think it's hard to do, but it's also not so much harder. I think a lot of times founders, we think, we just focus too much on product. I think we focus very little on building relationships. I think the first 10 customers, if they are not on, iMessage or WhatsApp with you, I'm not saying just the end user, the leadership of, who's buying your software, then you have not really built a relationship.
I see this. I think couple of mechanisms which are becoming really prevalent is roundtables, but not like you said, not the parties and not the network events. It's very curated roundtables where you're brainstorming. I look at our own Kartika Zora, and it is so interesting to see CIOs, CISOs becoming an integral part of the ecosystem where they're sharing what they're excited about on LinkedIn and saying that, here's an interesting product that can transform IT. I remember, going back to, Grey Orange Robotics, a lot of people know that their integration with Flipkart was so interesting that enabled the investment to happen. And I think this is the year not just of AI but also of ecosystems and evangelizers, and everybody is becoming part of this ecosystem versus thinking of them as silos, right? Team members, customers, partners, it's all coming together. So when I see the partnership that you all are doing with Azure, with Zora, it's an ecosystem play versus just let's say a product to a customer.
No, I think, see, basically, look, I mean, Karthik, who is the CEO of Zora, I think they're super grateful because one, I think he's not only a great customer, but he's also a great champion, for Atomicwork, and he's also a great challenger for us, right? To keep on pushing the boundary, right? From a product evolution perspective, right? I think Chad, who was our first customer, at Amex Corporation in Seattle, he's been incredible, I mean, like, he was the first one who kind of gave us an opportunity to put this product into production, right? And then helped us polish, and he was the first one who basically said, I want to write a check, to invest in you, right? Because I really like the mission and, I like the team. And that what kind of enabled me to go raise this, CIO round, that I have put together, right, last year. And even like a Ryder at Pepper Money, who's one of our other largest customer, Steve and Ryder and his incredible team, they really, really helped us polish the product, for enterprise ecosystem, for enterprise experience, for enterprise technology.
Right.
So I think, and some of them we found through cold outbound. It's not like they are friends. One of the things that I'm super proud at Atomicwork is typically startup founders mentality is you sell to friends. When product does not work, they become strangers, right? Yes. But if you're a 2x founder, I think you should consider selling to strangers and make product work, turn them into friends.
Stranger,
right? Stranger, they make the product work and they become friends, right? Yes. And if you can sell to strangers and make them happy, they become your friends. You can go leverage your entire network and really accelerate, right? I think one of the reasons like a lot of products get struck at like 1, 2, 3, 5 million kind of curves is because in the initial advice for most founders is go sell in the network, right? When you go sell in the network, do you get a high quality feedback? Can they throw you out because if the product is bad? They should tell you that it's bad. If it is terrible, they should tell you that it's terrible. And if it is good, they should tell you it is good. And you should have, your entire team confidence goes up dramatically if your first 10 customers are strangers. Versus, your entire team confidence, if they think, okay, Vijay went to his network, got 10 customers, they would not have gone through the grind, to form the core DNA of what it takes to pitch, sell, position, serve, and succeed with strangers, right? I would highly encourage. It's a very painful thing, but I would highly encourage.
A very contrary thought, but very interesting. Very similar to a young person lining up for a job interview without any influence or just going there on its own merit. Tremendous confidence when you get it. Last word. This is a big year. Every year is big. Is there a sort of mantra to the team that when everybody gets up today, I see tremendous entrepreneurship, ownership here. But what does the team have? Atomic team have in the mind wherever they're sitting in Palo Alto, Bangalore. You have other offices.
No, I think it's a. I think I previously also asked a question, I skipped actually answering that part. In 10 years, we want to be the platform for IT teams, right? We have to be the next platform for enterprise IT teams worldwide, right? Because it's a generational opportunity that we are going after. I think from a short-term perspective, I think we really have to offload the work from IT teams so that we can give their weekends back to them. We can give them stress-free sleep. We can let them have a moment, right? And a lot of IT people work during holidays, their birthdays, their anniversaries, right? It's like a cop job, right? You're always on. Right?
Yes.
And we really want to basically free them from the stress. We want to unchain them from complexity. We want to reduce the mundane, thing that basically demotivates them at times. From a this year perspective, I think the first 2 years, it's been 2+ years since we started the company. I think we had a great time, building the product. We had a really great time, deploying this with strangers. I think this is a year of our first growth and then scale.
Yeah.
And so go-to-market is like a big thing on my mind for this year, entire team. Turning a product into a more, enterprise platform is another big area. And how do we use AI to offload work from AI teams? That's like the key area for all of us.
Interesting. Workflow is something that you also talk about. So this is very interesting. Workflow teams. So I think this has been wonderful. We've covered a lot. And thanks again. I have to say thanks again, Which.ai. I think the best is kind of like your requirement of Jensen's leather jacket. So Atomicwork, of course. And wonderful. I think we're talking just at the start of this year, so we've got almost the entire year ahead. So look forward to many more milestones and many successes along the way. And it's been great to do this.
No, thank you. Not just Vijay. Sanjay also has AI in his name. That's why he's in the valley, trying to find next best B2B SaaS opportunities. I think it's been an incredible partnership even before Atomicwork. So you were like my first institutional investor, at Minjar, and it was a great journey from investment to exit. The entire Blume team, and I'm super excited to be building Atomicwork because I'm having a lot of fun, a lot of learning.
It's important also having fun along the way.
Having great partners and supporters like you, Karthik, and Ashish. It's been incredible. So I really look forward to building. Just make a great attempt to build one of the largest companies in the B2B SaaS cross-border ecosystem.
Yes, wonderful.
So thank you for all the support.
Fantastic. Till next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.